Now, the Green Party, talking about interesting parties, the Green Party's new leader claims that shoplifting can be justified for Brits living in poverty. This is Zack Polanski, a man in all shapes and sizes of interest, says those who steal because they have little money should be shown compassion, despite shoplifting costing retailers £4 billion a year. He's also attacked the justice system, accusing locking people up too often and too quickly. We might agree on the last point there. Let's speak with Matthew Barber, who's Police and Crime Commissioner for Thames Valley. Matthew, good afternoon to you.
Good afternoon.
I mean, this is often said, isn't it? You know, if you are, the archetypal single mother and want some nappies or some baby food, you shouldn't really be sent to Holloway for doing that. But I don't think largely when we're talking about shoplifting, that's really what we're talking about.
No, I think we would find that's a tiny minority, if at all.
Correct.
The people who see shoplifting in our streets are drug addicts stealing to feed their habits. They are parts of organised crime gangs. They are those who are selling those goods on. Just in Reading, in the last week, Thames Valley Police broke a ring of people who'd stolen £21,000 of goods from local stores and were selling those on. These are not people who are struggling to feed their family. These are criminals, and it's quite right that the public that should expect the police to deal with them. What I think what the Green leader is missing is, of course, this huge disservice to many people in our country who are genuinely really struggling to pay the bills, to feed their families, and they don't resort to crime because they're good, decent people who know right from wrong, and they will seek to do what they can to support the family. And it's right that we should expect a system that supports people who are at their lowest ebb. And we have a strong network of food banks and local authorities and charities who will support people. It is not an excuse to resort to crime. The sorts of things that people have experienced on the street is often where shoplifting becomes violent, and shop staff can be the victims of that. This is not an acceptable response. The vast majority of people who are shoplifting in this country are doing it for criminal gain. It's greed, nothing more, nothing less. We shouldn't give people an excuse.
100%. And it's also, as you alluded to there, Matthew, in your answer, it's a huge libel on working class people or people who haven't got any. You know, I grew up in a working class house with very little money. I mean, the idea that my mum or dad would go out shoplifting to try and feed us is more than a little patronising, frankly.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, I'm well aware of plenty of people across Thames Valley, across the country, who are genuinely really struggling, where they're struggling to try and do the right thing. Yeah. And I think if you're in the supermarket, having worked hard to feed your family, doing often more than one job, and you're there deciding what you can afford or can't afford to put in your basket, and you see someone comes up alongside you and just steals something, I think, can you imagine how bad that feels when you are struggling yourself and someone else is just taking what they want? It is unacceptable. And frankly, it harms the worst off in society, not just big corporations.
Indeed. Just give us a final point, Matthew. Give us an idea of what you guys are doing in Thames Valley. Your neck of the woods isn't immune from this same, what seems to be almost an epidemic of shoplifting. Perhaps it's been fuelled and increased because there's been so many social media posts of people doing it without getting caught. A copper doesn't show up. There's real difficulties there. What's happening in Thames Valley to try and tackle this?
Well, I mentioned already £21,000 of stolen goods seized by the police this week in Reading. This morning, before I joined you, I was in Oxford earlier today talking to retailers and security firms working with the police to tackle, identify prolific offenders, tackle them, make sure the police do attend when they're called, but make sure we gather the evidence. And we've improved the reporting of retail crime in Thames Valley, and that's why the number of charges for shoplifting in Thames Valley have doubled since we started that new approach. Of course, we still have problems to deal with, but it's about making a hostile environment for criminals and saying this is not acceptable here, and the police will bear down on those criminals.
100%. Matthew, thank you for your time, sir. Matthew Barber is the Police and Crime Commissioner for Thames Valley. I mean, this is happening en masse, isn't it, shoplifting? And it's happening because clearly criminals are emboldened. They're emboldened by the idea that the security guard is not likely to stop them in the shop. They're often masked up, although interestingly, not exclusively masked up. Even if they were stopped, are you going to get a police officer out to come and nab you because you nicked some pies and some beer or whatever? Probably not. Criminals also taking advantage of the fact that the police are really stretched, the court systems are stretched, and the prison system is stretched as well. So it's kind of perfect storm to be a criminal at the moment, and shoplifting is very easy pickings. And we know it's not about people just nabbing some baby milk. Industrial scale theft happening on a very regular basis. I don't know how it got relegated to a minor crime, not even a crime at all in some respects. People are getting away with it left, right and centre, and is the only way to throw the book at them. The single mother stealing milk to feed her baby because she has no money. I'm sure there is an example of that somewhere. I believe it's largely apocryphal, and you know, if it did exist, then in very, very small numbers. That's not what we're talking about. We're mostly talking about horrible, nasty oiks who go out nicking stuff because they can't be asked to go to work. This is